You step up to the tee, you take that big, confident swing, and you watch the ball start out fine and then peel off hard to the right, straight into the trees, again. You paid for the driver that promised to fix it. You watch the videos. And still it curves. Here is the truth that cost me years to learn. Your slice has almost nothing to do with your swing speed, your expensive club, or how strong you are. It comes down to one thing you were taught completely backwards, and a $9 rod from the hardware store fixes it faster than any lesson I ever paid for. What they told you for the last 50 years about why a golf ball slices was flat wrong, and machines finally proved it. Stay with me because the fix traces back to a British teacher who wrote it plainly in 1972, and it works for anyone with an old bath towel and 2 cheap sticks in the garage. You do not need talent. You need to stop believing the lie. I remember the exact moment it broke me. I was standing on the 9th tee at a little municipal course outside town, holding a $400 driver the salesman swore was anti-slice, and I watched my ball sail 40 yards right into somebody's backyard. That was the day I stopped trusting the people selling me the cure. Let me tell you what those years actually cost me, because I want you to feel it before I show you the way out. I am almost embarrassed to add it up. Over about 8 years I bought 3 different drivers, each one promising to straighten my ball flight. The cheapest was $220. The most expensive was $530. That is over $1,000 in club heads alone, chasing a fix that never came. Then there were the lessons. $50 here, $60 there. I took at least 15 of them across a few seasons. Some of the teachers were kind, some of them were good, but almost every single one had me working on the same thing, and that thing I now know was the wrong thing. So I would leave the lesson, hit balls all week, feel like I was improving, and then stand on the first tee Saturday morning and slice it into the parking lot. I bought gadgets too. A weighted contraption that strapped to the shaft, a pair of gloves that velcroed together, a thing you wedged under your armpit that fell out every swing. I want to say I spent close to $200 on gizmos that ended up in a drawer. And the whole time, the actual answer was sitting in a book older than I am, and in a hardware store aisle I walked past 100 times. Here is the hidden cost nobody warns you about. It is not just the money, it is the round itself. When you slice, you lose 30, 40, 50 yards to the side. You are hitting your next shot from the trees, or from another fairway, or you are reaching back into your bag for another ball because the last one is gone. That slice is quietly adding 4, 5, 6 strokes to your score every single round, and it is stealing the fun right out of a game you are paying good money to play. So the question that finally woke me up was simple. If the slice is the single most common miss in all of golf, and it has been for 100 years, why does everyone still have it? Why do millions of people, some of them playing for 20 and 30 years, still stand up and carve that same weak banana ball to the right? The answer is not that golf is hard. The answer is that we were all taught the wrong cause. And once you have the wrong cause, you can practice forever and never fix a thing. So let me tell you what a slice actually is, because this is where everything turned for me. A slice happens when the face of your club is pointed to the right of the direction the club is moving at the instant you hit the ball. That is it. That open face, relative to the path, puts sideways spin on the ball, and that sideways spin is what makes it curve away from you into the weeds. Simple. But here is where the lie comes in, and it is a big one. For most of the last century, teachers taught something called the old ball flight laws. They taught that the direction your ball starts is caused by the path your club is swinging on, and the curve is caused by the face. So if your ball started left and curved right, they told you the problem was your path. They told you that you were swinging over the top, coming across the ball from out to in, and that this outside-in path was starting the ball left and cutting across it to make it slice. So what did every lesson focus on? Fixing your path. Swing more from the inside, drop your hands, loop it under, round and round you go. And this is the part that made me angry when I finally understood it. That teaching was wrong. Not a little wrong, backwards wrong. And it was proven wrong not by opinion, but by cameras that shoot at 10,000 frames per second. Around 2005 to 2010, radar and high-speed camera systems, the kind you have heard called launch monitors, started measuring exactly what the club and ball were doing at impact. Real numbers. And what they found flipped 100 years of instruction on its head. The direction the ball starts is controlled mostly by the club face, not the path. On a driver, roughly 85% of where your ball starts is determined by where the face is pointing at impact. The path only accounts for the small remainder. Read that again, because it is the whole game. If the face controls where the ball starts, and the face being open is what causes the slice, then the face is both the villain and the cure. All those years I spent trying to fix my path, trying to swing more from the inside, I was polishing the wrong doorknob while the house was on fire. And here is who benefited from you and me not knowing this. Think about it. If the real problem is a simple face alignment issue that a $9 rod and a few minutes can teach you to feel, there is no money in that. Nobody gets rich selling you a stick. But an anti-slice driver with weights shoved into the heel to help close the face? That is $400, and it treats the symptom for one club while your face still hangs open on every iron in the bag. Lessons that keep you coming back all season. Working on a path fix that was never the root cause? That is a customer for life. The confusion was profitable. My confusion paid a lot of people's bills. I am not saying every teacher was a con artist. Most of them learned the old laws in good faith and passed them along, the same way their teachers did. That is how buried knowledge works. It does not require a conspiracy. It just requires everyone repeating the comfortable story long enough that the simple truth gets paved over. And the simple truth was written down clearly, in plain English, decades before any launch monitor existed. There was a British golf teacher named John Jacobs. If you have never heard of him, that is part of the story. He was one of the finest teachers of the 20th century, and in 1972, he put out a book called Practical Golf. Jacobs had a saying that he built his entire teaching around. He said golf is what the ball does, meaning do not guess about theory, watch the flight of the ball, and it will tell you exactly what the club did at impact. And Jacobs taught, decades before the machines confirmed it, that the club face was the dominant factor in the golf shot. He understood that a golfer who slices is fighting an open face, and that most of the ugly, over-the-top motion people develop is actually a reaction, the body's desperate attempt to steer a ball that keeps leaking right because the face is open. Sit with that, because it is the thing that unlocked me. The over-the-top swing that every teacher tried to fix in me was not the disease, it was the symptom. My body figured out, all on its own, that my face was open and my ball was going to fly right, so it started throwing the club out and over and cutting hard to the left just to keep the ball on the property. Fixing the swing path without fixing the face is like mopping the floor with the faucet still running. And that faucet, the open face, is the same hidden cause behind almost every miss you have been fighting for years, not just the slice. That is exactly why I sat down and wrote the 3 books this channel is built on, taking every one of these fundamentals far deeper than a video ever allows, case by case, over 420 pages of real work, so you learn to read what your ball flight is telling you, build a grip and setup that squares the face on its own, and stop the fat and topped shots that follow you around the course. It is the same 7 core fundamentals, laid out so an adult player can fix himself in 30 days of deliberate practice, without a launch monitor and without a coach standing over him. To get them, scan the QR code right there on your screen, link in the description, or pinned comment for the collection. Now, I did it for years, and I want to talk to the person who thinks none of this applies to him. I did it for years. Now, before I show you the rod and the drill, I need to talk to the person watching this who is thinking, this is not for me. Maybe you are older. Maybe your back is not what it was. Maybe you only play a handful of times a summer with friends, and you are certain that real fixes are for people with fast swings and expensive memberships and a lot of time to practice. I want to talk to you especially because this next part was built for exactly you, and it might be the most important few minutes in this whole video. You do not need a driving range. You do not need to hit a single ball. You do not need to be flexible or strong or young. What you are about to learn, you can do in your backyard, in your garage, even in a hallway, in slow motion, in your street shoes, in 5 minutes, with things you already own. And it teaches your hands and arms the one feeling that closes the face, which is the feeling that ends the slice. Here is the first thing you can do today, right now, with nothing but your own 2 hands. Look at your grip. Take your normal hold on the club, or on a broom handle, if that is what is nearby, and look down at your lead hand, the left hand for a right-handed player. How many knuckles can you see? If you can only see one, or none, your grip is what teachers call weak, and a weak grip holds the face open through impact almost every time. That single detail is the quiet cause of millions of slices. Now rotate both hands a little to the right, away from the target, until you can look down and clearly see 2, maybe 3 knuckles on that lead hand. That is a stronger grip, and it does something wonderful. It lets the face rotate closed naturally as you swing, without you having to manipulate anything. I am telling you, the first day I did nothing but change my grip so I could see 2.5 knuckles. My slice shrank by half. From one adjustment that cost me nothing and took 10 seconds. That is how much the face matters and how little the industry wanted me focused on it. But the grip alone will not carry you all the way, and this is where the towel comes in, because you have one in the bathroom right now. Take an ordinary hand towel and roll it up long. Tuck it under both armpits so it runs across your chest, and your upper arms pin it against your body. Now make slow, small swings, waist high to waist high, keeping that towel trapped the whole time. If the towel falls out, your arms are running away from your body, which is exactly the disconnected, over-the-top motion that goes hand in hand with a slice. Keeping the towel pinned forces your arms and your body to turn together, and when your body turns through and your arms stay connected, the face releases and squares up on its own. Do those 2 things, the stronger grip and the towel under the arms turn, for 5 minutes a day in your living room for 1 week, no ball required, and I promise you will walk onto the course a different player. That is the whole point of this channel. The fix was never expensive, and it was never hard. It was just buried under things that were expensive and hard, because those things made somebody money. Now, therefore, let me give you the $9 training aid itself, and the exact way to use it, because this is the piece that ties everything together, and this is the piece that finally made my slice disappear for good. Walk into any hardware store and go to the section where they sell driveway markers, those long, thin fiberglass rods with the orange tips that people stick along their driveway so the snowplow does not tear up the lawn. A pack of 2 of those rods cost me $9. $9. The golf companies sell the exact same thing, painted in fun colors and called alignment sticks, for 3 and 4 times the price. It is the identical fiberglass rod. Do not pay for the paint. These 2 rods are going to show your hands and your eyes the truth that every launch monitor confirmed, and they are going to do it for the price of a sandwich. Here is the setup that changed everything for me, and I want you to picture it clearly. Lay 1 rod flat on the ground, pointing straight at your target, just outside where the ball would sit, running parallel to the line you want the ball to start on. This rod is your reference. Most slicers, when they finally lay a rod down and look, are shocked to see that their whole body is aimed way left of the target. Why? Because you have been slicing for so long that you unconsciously aim left to give the ball room to curve back. But aiming left makes you swing left, which makes the slice worse, which makes you aim further left. It is a spiral, and the rod on the ground breaks it in 1 second by showing you where you are really pointed. Now take the second rod, and this is the part that fixes the face, which is the part that actually matters. Stick it into the ground a couple of feet in front of your ball, angled up and leaning slightly to the right of your target line, like a slanted flagpole. This is your gait. When you swing, your job is to feel the toe of the club, the far end of the club head, rotating over and pointing at that leaning rod through impact. That single feeling, the toe chasing up and over toward the leaning rod, is the release. It is the face closing. It is the death of the slice. For years, people screamed at me to release the club, and I had no idea what that meant. The leaning rod gave me a target to chase, and suddenly my hands understood. Let me put a real number on what this did. Before the rods, my slice was curving 35 to 40 yards offline with the driver. That is the difference between the fairway and someone else's flower bed. After about 2 weeks of working with the two rods, 10 minutes at a time, my ball curve dropped to under 10 yards, and a lot of them flew dead straight. My drives went from finishing in the right rough or worse to finding the short grass more often than not. I gained real distance too, not from swinging harder, but because a ball that is not spinning sideways flies farther and rolls when it lands. My scores came down by roughly 6 strokes a round. 6 strokes, from a stronger grip, a bath towel, and a $9 pack of driveway markers. Now here is the secret finale, the piece I promised you at the start, and it is the one thing that took me from better to actually cured. It comes straight out of that John Jacobs teaching from 1972, and almost nobody teaches it this way anymore, because it sounds too simple to sell. Jacobs taught that you should never try to fix your swing. You should only ever try to change what the ball does, and let your swing organize itself around the correct result. So here is the drill, and it is beautiful. Set up with your two rods. Then, on purpose, try to hit a hook. Try to make the ball curve hard to the left, the opposite of your slice. To do that, you will have no choice but to close the face and swing more from the inside, the exact two things you have been fighting to learn. You cannot hit a hook with an open face and an over-the-top swing. It is physically impossible. So instead of spending months trying not to slice, which keeps your brain focused on the slice, you spend a few sessions trying as hard as you can to hook it. And a funny thing happens. Your body, which is smart, quickly learns the feeling of a closed face and an inside path, because that is the only way to produce the ball flight you are now demanding. Then, when you back off just slightly, you find the straight ball waiting for you in the middle. Jacobs called this teaching through the ball flight, letting the target you want pull the correct motion out of you, instead of drowning in swing mechanics. It is the single fastest fix I have ever felt, and it is over 50 years old. Think about the hero's journey of this little idea. A great teacher wrote it down plainly in the early 1970s. The industry drifted away from it, because you cannot try to hook it with a $9 rod on a price tag, and because complicated theories about swing path kept customers paying for lesson after lesson and driver after driver. High-speed machines came along 20 and 30 years later and proved the old teacher was right all along, that the face is king and the ball tells the truth. And yet the simple version stayed buried, kept alive by a few old books and a few stubborn coaches, while millions of us kept slicing into the trees and blaming ourselves. Now it is in your hands. You have the whole thing, the cause, the cure, and the reason it was hidden. Let me tell you what really stings when I look back. It was never my fault, and it was never yours. We were not too weak, or too uncoordinated, or too old, or too cheap to buy the right club. We were told the wrong cause of our own problem, over and over, by an entire industry that had every reason to keep us confused and paying. The slice was never a mystery, it was a marketing opportunity. And the fix was always just an open face, a stronger grip, a connected turn, and 2 sticks that cost less than a bucket of range balls. I want you to feel what I felt the first time I striped a drive down the middle after all those years. It was not just a good shot, it was the feeling of taking something back. The feeling of realizing I had been paying, in money and in strokes and in frustration on a game I love, for a lie I did not have to believe anymore. If you are the kind of person who would rather understand the real cause than keep buying the shiny cure, this is your channel, and you are exactly who I am making these for. You are done being the customer who pays forever. You are becoming the person who fixes it once and keeps the knowledge. So here is what I want you to tell me. When you lay that first rod on the ground and look down at where you have really been aiming all this time, how far left were you actually pointed? I have a feeling a lot of you are going to be shocked, and I read every comment, so leave it below and tell me exactly what you saw. That one number will tell you more about your slice than any lesson you ever bought. And if this pulled back the curtain for you even a little, subscribe and stand with the rest of us who are done losing money to problems that were never as complicated as we were told. Because the next thing I am going to show you is the $2 fix for chunked and thin iron shots, the miss that embarrasses good players more than any other, and the reason it happens has nothing to do with keeping your head down. That old advice has cost you more good shots than you will believe, and I am going to prove it. This video showed you why the ball slices, but the full towel and 2 sticks drill, step by step, waits for you inside the Old Ways Almanac. And if something doesn't click, you can ask me your own question and I answer you myself. No robots. You'd be joining folks just like you, right where you belong. To come along, just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel any time. Now that we've straightened out that slice, there's one thing quietly holding your swing back. If you struggle to turn through the ball and feel stuck, this next one will really help. It's starting right here.